Okay, it's that time again, folks. It's time for movies, streaming, and everything in between. I'm Gary Tanguay, along with my friend Drew Yanno. And it's going to be interesting today, Drew, because we are going to discuss the extinction of a word in our title. And the word is movies, and it is the word, and it is the actual event of a movie. And, if I said, we've talked about this before, and if I said to my 10-year-old, let's watch a movie. She'd be like, she'd think Frozen, and that's it.
That's it.
That's
Exactly.
it. Frozen.
It's
That's
funny
it.
you said that because that's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is, so first I'll get your thoughts on that, and then I'll just, we'll discuss it whether it's good or bad or not. I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Well, what made me think about it was I saw or read something about some provocative statement that I kind of agreed with. I don't know. I didn't know if it was true, but a kid born today will never drive a car. And the thought behind that was in 16 years, we'll all have driverless cars. And I'm sure that's a desire for a lot of people. But I thought, well, that's a provocative statement, interesting to think about, especially considering how much we all love to drive, right? And it made me think that, and I'll say my own provocative statement, a kid born today might never utter the words, let's go to the movies. Those words will never come out of their mouth.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, maybe a drive-in. I mean, there's a couple of drive-ins around that people just do for something to do, but it's not for the movie.
Even then, they may not utter the word movies.
Right.
It's kind of like typewriter, right? Who says typewriter these days other than Tom Hanks, who apparently still writes on a typewriter? But, it literally could go out of fashion. And I think it's interesting to examine why that's the case. And there's probably a lot of people out there who don't give a shit, right? And I understand that. They just go along with whatever society and culture brings them, and they're happy. And
right.
I can imagine that's the case. I just find it fascinating because for the last 100-something years, movies are a huge part of our lives, right? It's a huge part. You think entertainment, the first thing that comes to your mind is movies. So I just thought, why is that? What's caused that to happen? And a lot of people say COVID. COVID just accelerated it. 2 years of COVID probably took 10 years off the movies. The same way it made people not go to the office and realized, hey, I can work from home, right? We were going in that direction, but we got there anyway, faster because of COVID.
Right.
But I thought, it's interesting to think about where the hell did the movies come from? Because when we think of movies, we all think you go to the theater, you buy your ticket, you sit inside, the movie shows, it's 2 hours long, you go home. And I think the 2 hours is the key thing there. It's a 2-hour form of storytelling, right?
Right.
And that came about almost by happenstance, right? The first movie, I don't know, 1895, but it's hard to say. But the first narrative probably was in 1909 or something like that, 1910. But they were all 15 minutes long back then because two things. Number one, a reel of film was 15 minutes long. It was 1,000 feet. It was about 15 minutes long. And they thought people can only sit still for 15 minutes. Seriously, that's what they thought. And then the Italians started experimenting with film, and they came up with something called Quo Vadis, big film, 2 hours long, very controversial. And they had to change reels, right? But people sat through it, and they loved it, and it changed. Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith came out, a couple of years after that. And I don't want to get all film history on you, but that's where it all came from. And it worked for two reasons. Number one, people would sit through 2 hours. And by the way, we've learned since then that 4 is never going to fly in a theater because we can't do it. It's an intermission. We don't want to do that. 3 is pushing it, right? So 2 hours, people sit through 2 hours. It's comfortable. And the business model worked because the exhibitors, the theater owners, could show it 5 times in a day. Good business model.
Right.
Right? So the business model hasn't changed. There's theaters, and we'll sit through 2 hours, and you can show 5 hours a day. But there's a new business model, as we know, because the name of our show is movies, streaming, and everything in between. Well, that middle thing, streaming, has changed everything. And I think the reason movies are on life support, not yet dead, but on life support, is two things: better business model for us, the consumer, and technology. Because you and I talk about this all the time. We used to watch TV, right? $1 Million Movie. You see the TV shows, Bonanza, and all that crap, right?
Columbo, Macmillan
Yeah.
and Wife. Yeah.
And there was a clear dividing line between movies and TV.
Absolutely.
TV was a lesser experience.
Oh yeah, TV actors. If you were a TV actor, you were a TV actor. That's it.
And you never could move to film.
No,
Tom
no,
Selleck,
no.
it was a big deal when he was on in a movie. But TV was okay. I'm in my house. It's a 19-inch screen. I can enjoy it, but it's not the movies. Oh my God, it's not the movies. And now it's 65-inch. It's high def. You got a sound bar, there's good sound. And the content is now readily available. You don't have to wait. You wait for the shows to come out, just like you waited for movies to come out. But you don't have to go at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 9 o'clock at night. It's right there on demand. That's the term they use.
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. And the only example I can think of is maybe an Avatar. I was speaking to a friend this morning. He said he wanted to, he's a fan of Avatar. He said, I have to see Avatar in a movie theater.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one example. I have no desire to see Avatar personally.
No,
the Marvel movies, I at one point in time thought that you had to see those in a big theater. But I've seen them so many times in my own house on like 70 inches. It's like, do I need to go to a theater to see a new Marvel movie? And without Robert Downey Jr. and the rest of that original cast carrying the flag, I don't know if there's going to be a Marvel movie that I want to see. Maybe Black Panther, maybe the second installment of Black Panther, maybe. Do
you need to see a Woody Allen movie in the theater?
Well, no. And this is going to be the question I have, because here's the debate. Are we better off?
If you don't like having to put your pants on and a down coat and shoes and get in a car and go to the theater, yes, we're better off.
See, I think it's more than that, though. I think the storytelling is better. I'll give an example.
Well, it's true. I do think it's better, but that's because everybody shifted.
That's correct. I mean, what you're saying is true, but I think it's for the better. I think that we look at going to a movie and getting the popcorn, and it was the glory days, if you will. I mean, it's like we're looking at it as an event. However,
I went every week.
Yeah, you went every week. Oh, I know. And it was something to look forward to, and you get out of the house and you did it, and maybe it was a date or what have you, and so forth. But I do think the storytelling's better. I think the storytelling today with what you get on streaming is better than what we had in the movies.
Because they're not restricted to 2 hours.
Boom. And boom. I'm gonna and this, because we talked about this, because at first you and I were like, grumpy old men. Oh, geez, they don't make movies anymore. There's no more Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or there's no more, right? Or, and I was thinking about this is that, The Verdict, right? David Mamet's, screenplay. Paul Newman. Right. I love that movie, but sometimes because of the lack of technology and because of budget and limited to editing and time and so forth, I think there's a couple of holes in the story. But I love Newman so much, and I love Milo so much, and I love James, what's his name, who plays the evil attorney,
Mason.
So much. James Mason, and I just and Jack Warden, and it's just, and I love the fact that Boston is a character, and I love it so much, I let it go. If you took The Verdict and made it 8 episodes, phenomenal.
Yep.
It would be like, you and I would be like, oh my God, did you see episode 3 last night?
Well, listen, how many books did they try to adapt to the screen, try to condense them down to 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, and you lost the essence of the book? Now you can expand the book.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. And that's why it's better. More choices, content. And here's the other thing about content. You got to go back to the old studio system, which started probably in the 20s. It was very clear. The studios made movies. The distributors distributed the movies. And by the way, every studio had a distribution arm. So sometimes they'd make the movie, but another studio's distribution arm would distribute it.
Yeah, which is weird. Yeah.
To the exhibitors, the theaters. And it was very clear. There were clear lanes. You swam your lane.
Right.
Okay. And now Netflix and HBO started this, and Apple and Hulu and Disney, everybody's jumped in. Disney was a studio, is kind of still. They're the studios. They create the content.
Oh yeah.
They have the distribution because they're in your house. You pay a subscription. They're in your damn house, and they're They're the exhibitor. Uh-oh. Studios have panicked because they don't know that, they want to either get taken over by the Netflix or have Netflix take over Netflix. But you can't compete. You have to join in, and that's
there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. Now, I do think it has helped the family unit in this way, because I know my kids, they're on their phones and they watch their different things and YouTube and all that. But I have seen my wife and my daughter and my son, my two daughters and my son, nobody likes what I watch. So, I mean, I'm out. I don't matter. But some of the things that my wife likes and that my daughter likes, my son will watch, Stranger Things. They will all watch together.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a throwback to, okay, Monday night, 8:00, Gunsmoke's on. Everybody's around the TV.
It's an easier consensus than going to the movies, because the movies, there were like 4 movies, 5 movies, 6 movies in the Cineplex, and now it's an easier choice, I think. And it's also easier because your kids can be in their sweatpants and socks. You can stop the movie and they can go get the popcorn. It's a different entertainment experience.
Right.
And it's just stunning to me that something that was so ingrained in us, this movie thing, and especially in like the 30s and 40s, before there was TV, it was.
Drew,
our parents dated to that.
Go to the 70s and 80s. In the 70s, Godfather, and in the 80s, Goodfellas or Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and a ton of great stuff. I agree. But the pandemic accelerated it.
Accelerated, exactly. That's what they did. And I think we're just used to it. When's the last time you uttered the words, hey, who wants to go to the movies?
It's not going to happen.
The words don't come out of your mouth. I went to see Top Gun in the movies because I had to. It wasn't streaming. I couldn't pay $4.99 when it first came out to watch it on streaming. And it was the only place I could go. And the studios are trying to create these ones where people say, I have to go. And they've recently done it with that romantic comedy with George Clooney and Julia Roberts.
Right.
Because they're big names. I don't think it's going to work.
It's not.
Because it's going to come out in a few weeks. And so it's kind of like the old thing. Remember the old thing? You'd see a movie come out and you'd see it and you'd see it advertised and you go, yeah, I don't know if I want to go. And you tell your wife, I can wait for the video. I can wait for the DVD. I can wait for the VHS, right? You would really make that choice. And that choice is made for you now. It's there. It's, except for those rare things like Marvel movies and Top Gun, which that business model works, but I don't think a theater company, I wouldn't invest in AMC. Let's put it that way.
No, I don't know how they're still in business.
I don't think they're going to be. It's funny. I predicted in 2010, last class I taught at BC. I said, guys, certainly in your lifetime, probably in the next 15 years, the theaters are going to be dead. I didn't think movies would be dead, but I thought the theater would be dead. And it's almost dead. Okay. Again, last gasps. And the movie's on its way.
But I don't miss, but when you say that though, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's just a phenomenon. It's interesting.
It's just, I like
it.
when we
personally.
first talked about it, I was like, oh, that's well, no. I mean, would I rather invest in 8 episodes of Succession and watch a 2 hour movie? I'd rather watch the 8 hour version. I think
Exactly.
the problem that streaming has is, or not episode, whatever we want to call it, episodic content. How about that?
Perfect.
Episodic content, right? Like Shameless. I loved Shameless. It was around too long.
Yeah.
It was around too long. So that's what you have now is, guys like Scott Franco, I'm doing one, I'm going to do one. That's it. I'll do one and that's it. We're done.
Long form.
And that's the way to do it.
Queen's Gambit could not have been a 2 hour movie.
No way.
Not possible. And look what that opened up for us. And that's what we have. So the choices are great. I just think, like the typewriter, the term movies is just going to go away.
It's out. Yeah, I agree.
And how many times do you say to your wife, what do you want to watch tonight?
Right.
How often does your wife or significant other or spouse or whoever it is say, I want to watch a movie? Like specifically, I want to watch a movie. My wife says, well, let's see what's on. And so you go to whatever it is. We go to Prime. We go to Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix,
Apple.
Well,
and you go through that endless list of stuff.
Even this, and now you just go, Queen's Gambit, your flight attendant.
Well, exactly.
Whatever.
If you know what you want, it's even easier. You pick up the rope and say
you just do it. But one thing, the challenge I have, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
The challenge that I have and what I want the industry to respond with is comedy. Because we've talked about this, is that
that's the one thing that hasn't survived this.
It hasn't. And I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous.
What are they showing instead? They're showing those hour-long comedians, Sebastian Maniscalco, whatever his name is.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, Segura, which is
Bill
great.
Burr.
It's great, but you could still do that. But,
But that's not the comedy like, The In-Laws, Midnight Run, as we talked about.
I'm like talking about, forget about the movie part, right? I mean, let's talk about content. I just say content. Because that's what I'm going to refer to as content, whether it's a comedic movie or whether it's a comedic series. Like if you took a great comedy like Midnight Run, I don't know if it would be episodic. Maybe you would do 4 episodes. I don't know. Maybe you do 4 or 5 episodes.
I think comedy is shorter form.
It's shorter form, but maybe maybe you do 4 half-hour episodes, or maybe you do 5.
Or you do a movie. And people accept it
like,
okay, I'm going to watch this story. I don't mind a 2-hour movie, a 2-hour story. I'm fine. It's in a way, if you think about as you get older, or even if you're younger and you just only have a certain amount of time, 2 hours is a nice thing, right?
It is. Yeah.
So I think it can survive, but as a predominant form of storytelling, no.
Right.
No, it's gone.
Right. But the comedy thing, they got to fix it because I got on like YouTube. You start going down YouTube, and that's where the theory is that YouTube has replaced comedy because you get to see billions of people do funny things. Like a billion people each do one funny thing, so they go and they laugh. But like there's Larry David, and even I love him, but like lately he's been hit or miss. I'll still my kids will watch Friends. I'll still watch a Friends episode and go, that's funny. Why can't the Comiskey method? I liked. I just haven't seen anything comedic that has done it. Like I love Succession. I love the stuff that's on streaming. The Flight Attendant, the first season, I love. Ted Lasso, maybe, but is Ted Lasso a comedy?
Interesting. No, it's a mixed genre.
And maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. So maybe.
Yeah, but we'll miss. Look, we think about Anchorman. Think all the funny movies lately.
And they just don't do it anymore.
No.
And that's something that I believe that the marketplace is missing.
Yeah, but it's going to be streaming. It's not. I'm not going to go to the movies.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I won't go. I won't go to see it.
Yeah, well, yeah. See, I'm I'm talking about just in my house.
Well, exactly. I think they have to fill that gap.
That gap of comedy.
The content producers, Netflix, Prime, Hulu, all those guys have to do it. I mean, what's the Steve Martin Short thing?
Murders in the Building is the only one. That's good. That's really good. That's funny. It's smart. It's really smart, and it's funny. Yeah. Now that's an example. My wife and my daughter and my son love to watch that together. We watch that as a family. They go, "Oh, let's watch Murders in the Building."
Yeah,
that's an example. But there's nothing unless I'm missing something. And I think that they've tried. Sometimes they try
They've
to do
tried.
it, but it just hasn't clicked. Um, where there was such a great run in the '70s and '80s for situation comedies. I mean, like I'll even watch a Seinfeld rerun and still laugh my ass off.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I watched The Honeymooners, so that'll show you what I think is funny.
one of these days, Alice. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Hey, Ralphie baby. Local pizza, Drew.
Yeah. Local pizza.
You
I
get,
don't
you
know.
get,
It just struck me when I heard that term or that prediction that kids born today won't drive a car. I thought, yeah, they won't watch movies either, or
no.
if they do, they won't call them movies.
Well, sometimes there are kids that probably shouldn't drive cars, but the idea of a car being driverless still scares the hell out of me. My son
Well,
and I we rented a Tesla on a road trip. He goes, "Why don't you do the automatic pilot?" I said, "Nope, no way,
no,
no."
that's going to be the big problem is people trusting technology because let's be honest, we don't trust technology.
Would you get in a driverless car?
No,
Yeah, me neither. I couldn't do it. No, not at all.
but that's the prediction, and I don't think it's necessarily going to come true. The movies one, I think, is going to come true. I think that term is going to go out of fashion. And the 2 hour form of storytelling probably won't. We just won't call it a movie because, and then think of even what the term means. Movie is short for moving pictures. Like it was so radical back then
Right,
that we had moving pictures. The first big show was, the Great Train Robbery in 19 whatever,
right. The bicycle thief.
1915. And people ran out of the theater because there were people up on this screen firing guns. They didn't know what to do because if you think about it, there was no screen entertainment anywhere, certainly not in the home. And then all of a sudden in this building, you're seeing this stuff going, what the hell? Moving pictures. It was radical. Now we take it for granted. But, the 2 hour form will survive, but it won't be strictly 2 hours because you don't have the multiple showing aspect that the exhibitor has to live by. It can be an hour and a half. It can be 3 hours, or you break it down and it's long form and it's 6 hours. Anyway, this is how my mind works, Gare. So,
Drew, it has been awesome. That is another edition of Screentime, movie streaming and everything in between with Drew Yanno and Gary Tanguay.
I got to leave now. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to
Have a good time.
not go to the movies.